You remember that Sakina, the incident of Shailen Singh's it took place on the 29th of December 2024. The two accused are alleged to have been involved in the...
On December 29th, 2024, Shailen Singh stepped out of his home with nothing more than a routine errand on his mind. He told his wife he was heading out to buy tires for one of his trucks, a simple task, the kind of thing he'd done countless times before. But what his family didn't know, and what even he couldn't have imagined, was that it would be the last time they'd ever see him alive. Shailen wasn't just another businessman. He was the heart of his community. He was loved deeply, respected widely, and trusted without hesitation. But on that ordinary summer afternoon, he was targeted and gunned down for an offense that countless people commit every single day. This is the story of a hit, the hit that took down Shailen Singh. Shailen Singh's story begins in the heart of Durban, South Africa, where he was born in 1992. His father, Pradeep Singh, worked long hours to provide for his family, not just financially, but emotionally too. Pradeep was a man who believed in doing things the right way. He believed in hard work, honesty, and standing tall in the face of life's challenges. Those were the values he poured into his son from the very beginning. As a young boy, Shailen was naturally curious. He had an energy about him, always on the move, always watching how things worked. Most kids his age were busy with toys or cartoons, but Shailen found joy in being around machines. One of his earliest memories, his father would later recall, was climbing under the family's old delivery van just to see what was underneath. By the age of 10, he could identify engine parts better than most grown men. His favorite place wasn't the playground. It was his father's garage. He often helped his father with minor repairs, handing him tools, and asking endless questions. He was fascinated by how a simple rotation of a gear could set a large machine in motion. It wasn't just a hobby for him, it felt like purpose. And that sense of purpose only grew stronger as the years passed. As a teenager, he began volunteering at a local workshop during school holidays, learning the ins and outs of engines, tires, and transportation systems. He wasn't in it for money. He wanted knowledge, experience, and the thrill of being around moving parts and tight schedules. By the time he turned 16, he had already set his eyes on the logistics world. He dreamed of running a fleet of trucks one day, moving goods across the country, and building something his family could be proud of. That dream would eventually shape every decision he made. When he completed high school, he didn't waste time. He enrolled in business and logistics studies and dove headfirst into learning the trade. While his peers chased quick money or the next big party, Shailen stayed focused. He spent weekends sketching business plans and evenings researching trucking routes and supply chains. With little more than a modest loan and a mountain of ambition, Shailen purchased his first truck. It wasn't brand new. In fact, it had more than a few dents and quirks. But to Shailen, it was gold. That single truck was the seed from which his empire would grow. He named his company Shailetrons, a simple name that carried his stamp. In the early days, Shailen was not just the owner. He was the driver, the mechanic, the dispatcher, and the accountant. He would wake up before dawn, handle logistics, drive deliveries himself when needed, and still find time to draft marketing emails and meet with potential clients. He ran on coffee, determination, and a drive few could match. Slowly but surely, word began to spread. Clients noticed that Shailetrons wasn't just another name in the crowd. Shailen was dependable. He delivered on time, every time. If a truck broke down, he found a solution. If a route was blocked, he rerouted. He never made excuses. He made it happen. As business picked up, so did the size of his fleet. What started as a one-truck hustle soon grew to a fleet of vehicles serving routes across KwaZulu-Natal and beyond. From construction materials to retail goods and even cross-border freight, Shailetrons became known for getting things where they needed to go, quickly, safely, and without drama. But Shailen wasn't just interested in profit. As the money began to flow, he stayed grounded. He never forgot where he came from, and he made it a point to give back. He hired young men from the township, many of whom had few opportunities and no formal qualifications. He taught them how to drive, how to service a truck, and how to show up and work with pride. He turned lives around, not with speeches, but with jobs. He also supported local charities and often stepped in quietly when families were in need. If someone in the community needed help paying school fees, Shailen would write the check. When a storm damaged homes in a nearby settlement, he sent supplies and manpower to assist with the cleanup. He didn't do it for the spotlight. In fact, most people never heard about half of what he did, but those who knew him saw the heart behind the businessman. As his reputation grew, so did his influence. Shailen started getting calls from larger corporations seeking partnerships. He began attending logistics conferences and business expos, learning new strategies, and investing in technology to make shale trans more efficient. He explored digital fleet tracking, automated dispatch systems, and advanced fuel monitoring solutions. He was no longer just trying to survive. He was planning for long-term dominance in the logistics space. By 2023, shale trans had become a household name in the region. Shailen's trucks were a regular sight on highways from Durban to Johannesburg, and his office staff had grown from one assistant to a full team handling finance, operations, and customer service. He even started mentoring younger entrepreneurs, sharing the secrets of his journey with those eager to follow in his footsteps. That same year, Shailen married the woman he often referred to as his best friend and greatest blessing. Their wedding was a celebration of love. Those close to Shailen said that he glowed differently around her. Their union was further blessed when, in October 2024, they welcomed their first child, a baby boy. And yet, even in the glow of all he had built, a shadow was beginning to form. Beneath the surface of his success, rivalries were brewing. Envy was building, and unknown to him, dangerous eyes had begun to watch his every move. Because when one man rises too fast, too clean, and too high, the world around him often decides, fair or not, that he must fall. It all began with a relationship that crossed the line. In late 2024, whispers began to spread that Shailen was involved in an affair with a woman who, as it turned out, was also romantically linked to Farrell Govinder, a powerful and well-connected figure in the private security industry. Farrell ran a local security company and was known not just for his influence, but for his explosive temper and reputation for settling personal scores with intimidation. For Farrell, the discovery of this alleged affair was not just a betrayal. It was an affront to his ego, a blow to his pride, and something he refused to let go unanswered. What followed was a series of threats, dark warnings that went beyond idle talk. According to court testimonies and statements from family members, Farrell made it explicitly clear that Shailen had crossed a line from which he could not come back. Shailen's father, Pradeep Singh, recalled chilling moments where his son confided in him about the tension that had started to build. Shailen had mentioned feeling watched. He had received veiled threats and unsettling messages that hinted at violence. Pradeep remembered urging his son to be careful and take extra security measures, but at the time, neither of them could imagine just how serious the danger truly was. By November 2024, the situation had escalated. Farrell's rage became more direct and more dangerous. Reports later revealed that he openly threatened to kill both Shailen and the woman at the center of the affair. These weren't vague warnings spoken in anger. They were deliberate, venom-filled statements made with deadly intention. Several people close to the case said Farrell had vowed to make an example out of Shailen, to show what happens when someone disrespects him in such a personal way. Despite the threats, Shailen tried to go about his life as normally as possible. He never stopped working, never pulled back from his family, never let the fears show. He still smiled. He still played with his son. But those close to him noticed a subtle shift. He had become more cautious, sometimes looking over his shoulder, sometimes changing his routine without warning. Something had changed. It was clear that the threats were not being taken lightly. What no one knew was that Farrell was not acting alone. His brother, Darren Govinder, had also become involved. Darren, a man with his own history in security work, stood beside Farrell in this unfolding feud. Investigators believe the two were in constant communication in the weeks leading up to the attack, planning every move, calculating their revenge. As December approached, the atmosphere around Shailen began to feel heavier. The energy changed. Still, Shailen never let on just how much pressure he was under. Perhaps he believed it would blow over. Perhaps he thought his clean reputation, his family image, and his contributions to the community would shield him. But the Govinder brothers were not interested in reputations. They were fixated on vengeance. And in their minds, Shailen had already been sentenced. The morning of December the 29th, 2024, seemed like an ordinary summer day. Shailen Singh, ever the responsible businessman and family man, kissed his wife goodbye and told her he would only be gone for a short while. He was heading to buy new tires for one of his trucks. That's what he said. That's what he believed. Neither of them knew it would be the last time they saw each other. Later that afternoon, Shailen pulled into a familiar parking lot on Meridian Drive in Umhlanga. It was a busy area. lined with shops, cafes, and the usual weekend traffic. Shailen parked his vehicle, unaware that he had driven straight into a trap. According to eyewitnesses, everything happened in seconds. A vehicle pulled up beside him. 2 armed men emerged. There was no warning, no argument, no chance for escape. The hit was swift and brutal. Shots rang out, shattering the calm of the afternoon. Shailen was shot multiple times at close range, bullets striking his head, neck, and chest with deadly precision. The attackers fled, disappearing just as quickly as they had arrived. Chaos followed. Onlookers screamed. Some rushed to help, others froze in disbelief. Emergency responders arrived within minutes, but the scene was already drenched in tragedy. Paramedics worked desperately, but there was nothing they could do. Shailen Singh, just 32 years old, was pronounced dead at the scene. News of the assassination spread like wildfire. Phones buzzed. Social media exploded. The community was stunned. How could this happen? How could one of the city's most respected businessmen, a man with no criminal record, be taken out in such a cold and calculated way? As investigators arrived and crime scene tape was stretched across the pavement, suspicions immediately turned toward the threats that had haunted Shailen in the months before his death. Detectives began connecting the dots, retracing his final movements, reviewing security footage, and pulling phone records. It did not take long for the names of Farrell and Darren Govender to surface. The brothers, known for their work in private security, were no strangers to law enforcement. But this time, the evidence was stacking up fast. Witness statements, digital footprints, and connections to the victim's personal life all pointed in one direction. The Govender brothers were arrested and formally charged with Shailen's murder on January 1st, 2025. 2 days later, they appeared in the Durban Magistrates Court for the first time. The courtroom heard about the threats, about the affair, about the warnings ignored. Prosecutors described a murder that was not impulsive but premeditated, a hit designed not just to end a life, but to send a message: revenge dressed as justice, ego disguised as rage. As the trial loomed, more questions emerged. Who else knew about the plan? Were others involved? Could it have been stopped? What remained clear, however, was the devastating void Shailen left behind. A wife who lost her partner, a baby boy who would never know his father, a business brought to a halt, a community left shaken. The man who once built a logistics empire from the ground up, who gave jobs to the unemployed, who supported charities without seeking attention, was gone. His life cut short in the most violent way imaginable. Shailen Singh died in broad daylight. In court proceedings, Farrell Govender was denied bail due to the serious nature of the charges and the potential risk of interfering with witnesses, while Darren Govender was granted bail under strict conditions. As the trial of the Govender brothers continues to unfold, the search for justice remains at the forefront, not just for Shailen, but for every business owner who fears they might be next. His murder wasn't just a personal loss, it was a wake-up call. The case has garnered significant public attention, with protests outside the court from both supporters of the Govender brothers and Singh's family, who are seeking justice for his untimely death. Shailen Singh may be gone, but his legacy is very much alive. In every truck bearing the Shale Trans logo, in every family that found hope through his kindness, and in every heart that still aches for the man behind the empire. He lived with purpose, he left with honor, and he will never be forgotten.